All right, so today we are painting sunset on the beach, tea on the beach, excuse me. And we have this example here, and we have our paints. We're going to put those out. So we have an addition on our actual picture that I'm going to be painting. My client wanted to add something in. So we'll be painting an ashtray and a lighter also. We'll get to that canvas in a minute. Don't need a lot of red. Do a little bit more of that. So you may need extra blue, but we're going to put out just one well of it at the moment. We have a lot of sky in the background. I'm not sure how this paint is going to work on this brush, so this is my trial run to see how these supplies are going to work and if I need to buy new brushes. So this brush that we're using, I wouldn't typically use. Use other brushes, better brushes, but because this is a project and I need a lot of brushes. They have the cheaper ones and things aren't being stocked up like they were. So we have to make do with what we have. All right, so this is canvas here. Back this camera out some. All right. So our first step, you want to have your water, you have your big brush and your small brush, you have your rag to wipe things off. That'll get paint on it randomly. And make sure you have your music and your smoke. All right, so we're going to take our brush and we're going to start with the sky and we're going to work our way down. And we'll blend as we go. We don't worry about huge mistakes. Little mistakes aren't a big deal. We can have ways of covering those up. I'm going to start with my blue. If you want to wet your brush a little bit before you start, you can. But this paint is really flowy, so you don't really need to. And don't worry about painting over the lines of the sun because we're going to go back and paint that afterwards. Same thing with the tree. You can kind of go over the line a little bit. You want to try to keep your brush strokes in the same direction. So I know it's kind of hard to keep your brush strokes the same when you get up to these little areas. But you can kind of like tap it as you go to fill it in. Or you can just get you a smaller brush and use a smaller brush in the smaller areas. That's fine too. So we're going to use this blue. Don't forget over here, you want to keep your skyline pretty consistent. Okay, so we want to make sure, keep your skyline consistent. Okay, so now we're going to get the other blue. If you want to rinse your brush off, you can. Don't necessarily have to. So I'm going to blend all this in. I like to keep the other color on my brush so that when I'm doing the other blue, it leaves it on there and it kind of gives you a different color blue. And if you decide to keep it lighter, you want to make sure your lighter paint is down at the bottom. So if you when you come back in with your paint to continue pulling your color across. Man, we gotta get up in here too. Hang on. Get a little bit of the other blue. So the lighter blue is going to be in your water. So you can grab some more of the lighter blue and start pulling that across. So with the lighter blue, you only want to go about halfway down. Mark the other canvases so you can see where to stop halfway with your blue. And you can pull that blue from the water up into the sky. If you start to get too light into your dark color, just kind of blend it all together by swishing your brush. But you want to leave the darker part of your sky at the top. Okay. So now we're going to rinse your brush off. Get your brown, your light brown. So when you rinse your brush off, drag it across the top of the cup to pull off a lot of the excess water and then wipe it. Never put your wet brush into your paint unless your intention is to really water it down. All right, so I'm going to get some of your light brown. Move this up. Sure we can see. And you're going to take your light brown down by the glasses and you're going to start filling that in. You don't want this to be heavy. So take this amount of paint that you have and kind of pull it all the way around as much as you can. So for this area, for the brown, my brush strokes are going to be away because I'm going to blend the white and the blue to make it, well, this is your sand. So I'm going to blend it and I'm going to use some white to lighten it up because your sand is going to transition into your water. And like I said, you don't want this to be heavy, so use as much of this paint as you can. Okay. So what we want to do now is get some white. Your brush should be a little bit drier so that you don't have to rinse it. And the reason I don't want to rinse it is because I want to leave that brown in there because I want it to blend, and I don't want it to be just white starting off. Okay, so if you go over all of your brown with the white, makes it a sandy color, and that's what we want because this is sand. I'm going to keep pulling this up toward the water. And it's okay to paint over the line a little bit because we're going to go back over it and make sure that we fill it in. And this is going to be, the glasses are going to be black, so you won't see it. Let me go over top of the straw some. Okay. Finish the other side over here. Get a little bit more white. Don't get a lot because it's a small area. You want to get just enough that you can smear it and spread it. And you want to try to make sure you get it blended really well so that it's the same color as the other side. But even if the color's off a little bit, you usually don't really stand out as much and can't really tell. A little bit more white. Okay, so you want to get in between the glasses as well. So you're going to take your smaller brush, get a very little bit of brown. And then get a little bit of white. And blend it up. Fill in that space. Take a little bit more white at the top because that's going to transition with the water. So if we're going to show that transition this way from light to dark, we got to make sure that that's our line going across. So you can kind of lightly mark your line going across. And from that line, you pull it down into the rest of the paint. turn this a little bit. So I'm going to take some more white, and from that line, start to lighten up more of the area. So take your white and kind of go across to show where your blend line is going to be. Okay. So with your big brush, you're going to get some more white, and we're going to start to blend into the brown to get to the blue. Don't worry about painting into the straw. We're going to go back over those things. For right now, we want to just get this filled in because you're going to come all the way across your canvas now over the tops of the glasses. I'm going to come around your lemon. Be careful because you will splatter into your sky. And if that happens, we'll go back over with some blue. And like I said, we don't stress about the little accidents. They happen. All right, so after you do that, you want to start to pull your colors together. So you go back over. And you can start to take the lighter sandy brown and pull it into the darker brown. So you want to make all of this a little bit lighter because it's sand, right? All right, so sometimes it can look a little messy. It's not a problem. By the time we finish, hopefully we'll be able to have everybody's looking pretty decent. Okay, so now we're going to go back into the water because now we want to pull the water and the sand together. Just want to make sure this is light. We don't need dark sand there. Okay. So I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to get some a little bit more white and blue, and I'm going to lay that down, and then we can take our little brush and blend it. So I want to take my white, and the white I want to come across like the height of the straw. and create a line. It doesn't have to be a neat line. It can be a messy line. It doesn't matter. But the whole point is you want to take this brush and start creating a line across that you're going to use to blend into your blue. Okay, so rinse your brush off and then wipe it off so that it's not wet. All right, pick this up again. All right, so now you want to get your lighter blue. You don't want a lot, okay? And same way you patted that white in, you want to pat that blue in. But this time you want to make sure that you don't go too high above the line for the sky. But you can blend it right at the line for the sky. And you're going to take your big brush and just pat it around. And you're going to pull that blue into the white by patting it like this. And you can pull that blue down, but don't go too far down because you don't want your sand to get that sand color on your brush too much and muddy the blue. And you keep tapping and patting, blending. You want to blend all this blue in with the white. You don't want to leave a lot of really heavy blue areas. And we're going to get a little bit more blue because you don't want the sand to be so high up either. You want to find a right balance. But if you find that you like it the way that you have it, that's fine. I want to make sure, I want to check out some more blue in there. Okay. All right, so take your big brush and rinse that off. We're going to put that down for a little bit. Okay, so you want your smaller brush, and we want to get a little bit of the blue on your brush. I'm going to put it into the middle here, and then you want to get a little bit of black. Don't need a whole lot. And you want to mix that blue and that black together. I'm going to add a little bit more blue. So you kind of want to do 2 parts blue, 1 part black. Okay, and after you get that mixed up, rinse your brush off. And you want to go back and take your flat brush and you want to put a little bit of blue on there. And we're going to go across and make a line. So what I'm going to do is, after we finish this line going across the horizon line, I'm going to go and take some more of the darker blue, not the one you mixed up, but the regular blue, and we're going to go back through on top of that line and just kind of pat it with your brush and blend it in. So now with this darker blue line, you want to take the lighter blue and you want to blend that back down into the water. I'm going to rinse my brush off. And just get a little light blue and blend that into that line so that you don't see the heavier darkness. That's what you're trying to cover up. So you're just going to get a little bit of blue and you want to blend it into that line. So what you should be finished with is a mixture of blues, and it'll have that really dark top, but it's not going to look really dark because you've mixed the other blues in with it. If you feel like your blue is too heavy, you can just keep patting it down and put some of those darker colors in the water to give it some depth. Right, so now we're going to rinse our little brush off. You want to get some green. And you want to start filling in your palm trees. Now you want to be careful because this paint doesn't dry very quickly. So this is a little wet down here still. So I'm going to turn this sideways. Okay, so now I'm going to take my green and I'm going to follow the line of the tree. And I know you can see the blue through the green. Don't worry about it. When that first coat dries, while we're painting down the bottom and the T, we'll come back up and go over it again. Okay. So now I'm going to get my other line. Okay. So now I'm going to start to fill in. So you want to keep your brush strokes kind of coming down from the top to the bottom. If you have to fill in something like how it's right here, I don't want to just come fill right here. I want to go back to the top to the bottom because we want to give this these dark lines that are happening at the brush edge and use those as the dark lines for the palm tree. So you want to take your palm tree leaves down into the blue. Okay. Get a little bit more green, and we're going to go outside of this here where I didn't fill in, and I'm going to start to go back up. Okay. And each time I start, I'm going to start on the vine, the vein of the leaf, and then pull it down and just kind of going over the top. So, and my hand is going to be in the way, but I'll show you what I mean. So you go like that, okay? And you just keep going over the top. So what I'm noticing is that this paint is really liquidy. So my blue is kind of going into my green. This part down here is not dry. So I'm going to hold off on doing that part because I don't want the blue to really smear. So I'm going to paint the bottom part of these other white trees, and then we'll drop down to the bottom. So again, like I said, you want to make sure that you keep your brush strokes the same, because you want to make sure that when you fill these in, that you are letting the end of the paint. So when you paint, you leave a thick line of paint after each stroke. So you want to make sure that you're kind of leaving that there so that you can see how your brush strokes create the look of the leaves. And remember, if you notice any little areas that you didn't fill in, you can't just paint right there. You got to go back and fill in the whole line again. That way you keep the brush strokes looking the same. Okay. It's making me miss the beach already. Same thing on the other side. You want to paint your line down. And that's the middle of the tree. Then you take the green and you just keep drawing your lines down. All right. So like I said, we'll come back up and finish the top in a little bit. All right, so now we're going to start on the T. So what I want to do first is I want to paint the ice cubes. And the reason I want to paint the ice cubes is because when you paint the T, the ice cubes are going to lighten up a little bit because they'll already be white. And that white is going to help move it around. So what we're going to do is we're going to wipe out the middle as much as you can. You might not get it all off, that's fine. The middle of your palette. Because we're going to use the brown and the yellow. We're going to mix some of that up to make the tea color. So you want to get as much as that dark blue out of there. So let's mix up our brown and yellow first. And you can take your little brush and you can put in 3 globs of brown. Make sure your little brush is clean. I just realized I didn't rinse it very well with the green. All right, so we're going to take 2 of yellow. You're going to mix those up. Okay. So now you have a lighter yellow brown, and we're going to paint the tea with that color. But first, like I said, we're going to paint the ice cubes white. You don't want to use a whole lot of white. You don't want to make it heavy because, like I said before, this paint is real fluid, like it's really loose. So you don't want to smear a lot. So we'll take a little bit of white and just go over the ice cubes. And like I said, it doesn't have to be heavy. So when you paint the brown, this white is going to smear some and it's going to lighten up over the ice cubes so that when you look at it, it looks like how ice would look through a glass of tea. You want to do all the ice cubes in both cups. You know what? You're going to paint the straw too, because the straw can be white, or is white in the original that I did. But that straw is going to have that same kind of effect. I hope you all are following along easily. Say that. Leave me some comments and let me know if I need to change anything. Leave me your suggestions. Okay. So I'm going to rinse my brush off because it's got a little bit of the brown in it. And I'm going to get some more white and we can do the straws. Now make sure you pay attention because this is your mint leaf and then there's the lemon. So you want to not paint those because those are going to be different colors, obviously. And we want to pay attention to all the little details. Like I said, it doesn't have to be thick, but you just want to get a nice little coat. Okay. So now we're going to take this brown that we made and we're going to rinse our brush off first. And dry it off too. Okay. So if you start at the bottom and go to the top, and kind of lighten it up as you go. Go around the bottom of the straw for now. Try not to get that white yet. You want to make sure you avoid your mint down here. If you go over the line a little bit, that's okay. Most mistakes are fixable. The key is don't panic. Okay, so you want to come up behind your lemon here. I went over the line with the brown, so my line is kind of hidden at the moment. Okay. So in a moment, we're going to paint over these white areas, but we want to fill in all of the brown areas first, because what's going to happen is that white is going to blend with that brown and make things lighter. So we'll have to paint a few times to get the T to look uniform. But I like to do this with the little brush instead of the big brush, so that I can get into these smaller areas and I can kind of control how I'm doing things. So now we're going to paint over the lemon and then the ice cubes. You don't want to do the lemon heavy, because we're going to go back over the lemon with the yellow. And you still want to be able to see it, so you can see where to put your colors. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go over these ice cubes. If you lose your lines, that's okay. You just keep brushing at it, and you'll start to see them again. And you don't want to see them fully, because you want to leave a little bit of the lines from the black there, so that we can kind of get the impression of it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to take this lighter brown and start to pull it into the darker brown. And you can go around where your ice is and just kind of make it a little bit more square. Okay. So if you can kind of vaguely see your lines, take your brush, you don't have to wet it, and just start to smear that paint that's there. And that should start to pull your pencil line through. Okay. So we're going to continue to pull that white, that lighter brown from the ice all around, lightly over the lemon. So my brush is really drying out, and I don't want to wet it yet because I want to keep just lightly coating this tea. All right, so now we're going to do, we're going to rinse our brush off. Dry it. Get a little bit of the yellow and start to do the lemon. So you want to make the rind more yellow. And you can kind of tap your brush off on, I just like to do it on a palette just to kind of thin whatever I have on here. And I don't want to take all of the color off, but I want to take enough off that it's not on there, but still enough that I can just kind of blend this on top of the yellow that's there. And you don't want the inside of the lemon to be as yellow as the outside of the lemon. Okay, so now we want to take and rinse the brush off. Dry it off as much as you can. We're going to go back over these ice cubes and pull a little bit of this heavier paint off of here. And you got to do it before it dries. Okay. So we go back and rinse it again. Dry your brush off. And you just lightly sweep this light brown off of here. Okay. The straw, you can do the straw a little bit. Do mostly down the middle. Leave the sides a little bit darker. But remember, this ice cube here is on top, so you want to take and make that ice cube a little bit lighter. Okay. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to take a little bit of the yellow, put it in the middle of my well or my palette, and I want to lightly brush over this iced tea with the yellow. So I know you're not really fully painting with the paint, but you really are painting. Okay, so we're going to take that yellow over the ice cubes a little bit. So that yellow in the middle of the palette should be drying out some. You don't want to take a whole lot because the whole point is just to tint it with the yellow. Okay. So I'll take a little bit of the darker brown and paint in this end of the straw. All right, so now we're going to go over to this other cup or glass. And we're going to start off with the brown again. That's in the middle, your yellow brown. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up again. So you should be painting inside the first lines here and not into this second line. I didn't mention that. If you paint it into this second line, it's not a problem. We're just going to go around that lightly with some white at the end to give the illusion of a glass actually being there. So you're going to go ahead and continue to paint with your brown, your yellow brown, excuse me. And we're going to do the same thing that we did on the first one. We're not going to paint into the ice cubes or anything like that yet. We're going to take care of all of the other white areas first. And then we'll go back and paint the straw and the ice cubes and the lemon. Okay. Just about done this. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and do the ice cubes. I'm just going to take that brown that you're using and we're going to paint on top of that white that's there. Okay, so you want to be careful and make sure you don't paint over your mint. And be careful and don't paint the brown over. Actually, no, never mind. I was going to say don't paint the brown over your lemon, but you can paint the brown over the lemon. But just don't cover it up completely where you can't see where it is. And you can go ahead and paint over your straw as well. All right. What's that? That's the lemon. Okay. Okay, so after we do the straw, gonna go on to the lemon. I like to try to keep, like I said, my brush strokes in the same order. We didn't paint over here. I have to go back and do that. I like to try to keep them in the same direction so that they can stay in the same order. And you can kind of tell the difference between objects. So if I paint my brush, my straw like that, going this way, and I paint my ice cube going this way, now the textures of it changes as well. So it's a little definition and dimension trick that you can do in order to give the look a little something different. Same thing with the ice cubes. Stay in the same direction with your brush strokes, but then when you get to the bottom, you might go a different direction to give it a little bit of definition. All right, so now we're getting ready to paint the lemon with the yellow, keeping your rind a little bit darker than the inside of the lemon. Okay, so now we get a little bit of yellow, and not too heavy. And I'm going to take a little bit of the lighter areas here. Okay. Might even pull the white from the straw into the lemon a little bit. We're going to go back over all of the tea with the yellow again. Now, if your tea starts looking too yellow, get a little bit of the yellow brown and then thinly go over it. If your tea starts looking too white, get a little bit of the yellow brown and go over it again too. But try not to make it too thick in color or too dark in color because you want to keep it a little on the transparent side so that you can see through the glass. And you take that yellow and go over your ice cubes. And it's not going to be a heavy yellow. It's just going to be so where you can kind of smudge and stain a little bit. I'm going to blend this area I missed. I missed a lot over here. Okay. So while I'm painting, I like to take a second to step back and look at it. and then see if I need to add anything or if I missed anything. Like I just noticed that I missed that little area there. So in order to get it to kind of fill in to the spaces that I missed, after I painted on, I took my brush and dampened it, well, wet it and cleaned it, but then I go back with that damp brush and just pat it to smudge it some so that it's not really heavy. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the yellow and go over this area with the yellow. Okay. All right, I want to take and wet my brush and dry it off. And get a little bit of green and paint in my mint in the glass. So I'm going to go back in here because I missed some little areas. This little yellow area and then this area. Yeah, that's ice. So I have to go back in and paint the rest of that. We have more mint to paint. Okay. So now we're going to going to fill these areas in that I missed. I'll check the top and see if the top is dry. Yeah, the top looks dry enough for us to go back and do the tree leaves. So what you can do is you can take your pointing paintbrush and you can go around with your yellow brown and paint the top of your tea. So you don't want a heavy line, you just want to make a nice thin brown line that shows where your tea line is. And you can do it on your other glass as well. So after you do your tea line, you want to get some white. And you pick a very little bit of white on the tip of your brush and go back over that T line. Because we don't want the T line to be really dark. But we also don't want it to just be completely missing either. The mint that's in the tea, you can take the yellow brown, just take a little bit on the tip of your brush and kind of blend it right over the top of it. So this is my yellow brown, and I'm going to go right over the tea, over the mint, and just keep smudging that brown around until it blends all the way in. I'm going to do the same thing with the mint that's in the tea and the other areas too. All right, so we're going to take, I'm going to fix these two little areas that I missed. So if you put a little bit too much paint down, you can rinse your brush, dry it off, and then take your dry brush and wipe up the areas that you made a mistake in. So it's kind of like a paint eraser. That's what I like to think of it as. All right. Get this one down here. All right, so now we're going to work on the outside, the ice outside, and the straw. But the first thing we want to do is we want to take a little bit of, actually no, first thing we're going to do is do the ice. So we're going to get white and just paint the ice white. And you're going to paint your straw white. Okay. So after we paint our ice, we want to take the light brown and we're going to paint the continuation of the sand. Okay. Oh man. Okay. So I had some white spill out over that tea line. I'm just blending it down so that I don't have to, so I won't be frustrated because I did too much. Okay, so we want to make sure we paint the ice and the straw in the other glass as well. I like to see the pencil line through the paint. If that's not your preference, that's fine. This is your creation. Make it however you want it. I'm just making a suggestion. All right, so again, I went over that line. So I just dampen my brush and then go back over it. Okay. Straw's painted, ice is painted. Now we're going to take that light brown and that white, and I'm going to mix them up here on the side. You can kind of see it there. Just took a little bit and mixed them together to make that sandy color. And I'm going to look and see if it's pretty close. That's pretty close. Right, so what I want to do is I want to fill this entire area in around the ice and the straw with this sandy color. And I don't want to just paint it brush stroke like. So again, I'm going to tap it in there. And you want to tap it around the ice. And when that white comes off of that ice on here, because you're going to probably tap into that, that's okay. We'll use that as a blending instrument. But remember, because all of this is in front of the beach, so we got to fill all of this in. All right, get some more of that sandy color. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay. So now what we're going to do is take a little bit of white, and I want you to take some and then paint it out here, because I want it thin. You don't want to use a whole lot of white, but you want to have it mixed in with that brown a little bit. And then you're going to come down. Actually, you're going to start at the top and start to pull all those colors together. And if you notice, it's kind of the same thing we did on the outside over here. And you want to start to come up out of the cup as well as it starts to get lighter. As your brush starts to dry out, you start pulling that thinner color into these white areas so that it all blends, okay? So get some more of that white, paint it out on your palette to thin it, and then you're going to come over here and do the same thing in this cup. If you feel like you went too dark coming out of your glass, then you can just kind of pull it all the way into the water so that you just kind of blend it in. And I tell y'all, I don't pay attention to mistakes really, unless they're like really huge. But when you're blending like this, you can kind of blend your mistakes into to each other so that you don't notice them. You'll know it's there, but somebody else will just be like, "Oh, it looks good to me." I have tons of mistakes everywhere in my artwork, but nobody knows but me. All right. So I went a little bit lighter underneath that lemon. And I kind of like the lighter here because I want the sand to lighten up. So I'm going to take a little bit of white and go back over at the same height as the sand behind the glass. I'm going to spill that outside the glass and just blend in. All right. I'm going to blend all of this white in. And if your brown goes over your ice, it's okay. We'll go back over the ice with a little bit of white. All right. I'm going to go outside of this glass as well. Got some white over here that's trying to be a little bold and defiant. I'm just going to put some brown on there and blend that in too. So you can take these whiter areas, some white on your brush, and pat it out into the water to give it that foamy beach look. If you're not getting this foamy beach look, it means you have your brush is either too dry or too wet. My brush was too dry, so the white wasn't breaking up the way that I needed it to. Now that I've wet my brush, it is blending the white more, but it's also taking out a lot of this brown that's heavier in here because it's making the white blend on top of the brown a little bit more. And just because you did white on one side to bring that foamy look to the water doesn't mean you have to do it over here. Okay? You can make your beach however you want your beach to be. All right, so we're going to go back inside the glasses now, finish that out. So I have some areas of brown here that haven't touched the line of my straw and the ice. So my brush is just damp, no paint on it. I'm going to take that damp brush and smudge it around. So I'm going to pull that color close to the line. And I want to color all of that, those white areas in. And inside the glass here, you want to take that brush and smudge a lot of it because you want to have that frosty glass look instead of just having an almost a clear glass look to see the sand the way that you can see it. So you can just smudge all of that in into all of those areas. So again, wet it, smudge it, wet it, dry it, smudge it. Let's see that. If you're trying to smudge and it's not working, get a very little bit of white on your brush and then use that to smudge inside the glass here. Because like I said, you want to have like a frosty kind of look and not so much of a speckled kind of look, like where you've been patting your paint. So you want to have like a smoother kind of look in the glass. All right, so after you finish that part, let's go back over the ice and the straw. And then we'll move on to the lemon. So when you're going back over something for a second time, you want to try to make sure that this is like your almost like your final area for this. So you want to make sure that you clean up as much as you can with whatever lines that might have strayed. Kind of almost think of it as like your final project for this part. So you want to make this the neatest that you can. And I know it's hard. It's not easy for everybody to keep a still hand, and that's fine. Do the best that you can. Okay. So after, like I said, after we do the final cleanup here and second coat for these straws and the ice. We're going to move on to the lemons. I hope everybody is feeling wonderful about their painting so far. You know that no two paintings are going to look the same. Even if I give, direct instructions, something about yours is going to be different than mine, and that's okay. Some of you will have ideas to do something different, do a different color. That's okay. You might get ideas that's altogether different than what we're doing right now, especially if you're smoking. And that's okay too. Right. Okay, so almost finished with this part. Work on this last little area of the straw. Right. So this particular area of this painting has the straw against the glass, and that's going to be white too. So if you go outside the line, or if you lost your line, don't worry about it right now. We'll go back and fix it once this kind of dries up some. Okay. All right, now to the lemon. What we're going to do first is we're going to take a drop of white and put it right in the middle. Okay. You can put a drop of white in the middle on the other side. Rinse your brush off. Then we're going to get some yellow. You're going to put a drop of yellow next to that white on both sides. And then we're going to go onto one side and just kind of blend that white and yellow together. And keep that white and yellow mixture inside the lemon. Don't go into the rind with this white and yellow. If you find that you don't have enough, you can go ahead and do another drop of white and yellow. So you're going to do both sides like that. Your yellow can go down into the glass as well. Right, so because I know now I need a couple of drops of yellow and white. All right, so now after we finish this part, we're going to get just the regular yellow, and we're going to paint that for the rind. And if you're like me and you paint it over the yellow or the peel area, you just have to go back and fill it in. Try to make it as circular as possible. So I'm going to go into the inside a little bit, and also because I painted over my white area for the lemon, I now have this beachiness going on underneath there. But once that first coat dries, we go back over and add another coat so that it makes it a little bit more defined. And that way you don't see the blue from the water coming in as much underneath there. All right, going to the other lemon. So once we go through with the yellow, we're going to take white and go around like an inner circle around the actual inside of the lemon. Now you have that after you peel a lemon, you have that white area. All right, so got the lemons done. Rinse your brush off. Get a very little bit of white, and you're just gonna go around. You're gonna fill in those little triangle areas between the fruit of the lemon. And then once we finish the lemons, then we go and do the straws. We paint the top of the straw white. Okay. See that the first one. The first one didn't have it thick like that. Then after we finish the straws, we'll go back up top and finish the palm tree in the sun. And then we'll hop down to the bottom, making progress. Okay. All right, so get some white. I lost the, oh no, I see it. Let's see, I lost the top of my straw, but here it is. Okay. I'm not painted the bottom part of that straw already, but I felt it was important to go back over it. Okay, so now we're going to go to this other straw that curves. You want to make sure you try to keep your line as true as possible. When your eyes see something that's kind of off, you notice that first before everything else. All right. Okay. Ooh, went outside the line. All right. Wipe that off, and then get to the tree. Okay. All right, back to the tree. The palm trees, not the tree. I'm gonna fill this white area in here. All right, so we're gonna use a small brush that we were using before. Get your flat brush. And I'm gonna start at the top and pull your lines down. So you go back to this part here and pull it down and just keep pulling down. Like I said, I know that it is pulling into your blue, but that's okay. We're going to go back and fix that. So you go to the top of your tree and just make a little line into the spine. Okay, go to the spine, go out and back down. Go to the spine, come out, go back down, come out, back down, come out, back down. Same thing over here, come out, down, come out, down, fill that in, come out, down. You come out and go back down like that. Okay. So these areas that are white, I'm going to go back in and we'll fill those in once this paint dries, and then we can put another coat on top. Okay, and we'll get that blue spot too. All right, so I'm going to take my little brush and I'm going to go into the blue and I'm going to fill in those areas around the sun area. Some of you may already have done this when we were doing the starting earlier. So we're not going to do the sun yet since we're filling all this blue back in. We're going to let this blue dry and then we're going to come back and do the sun a little later. Because if you try to do it now, when you do that blue, you're going to mix it and make a light blue sun. And we don't want that. Okay. Going to rinse my brush and dry it. I'm going to come down here to the bottom and I'm going to paint the gray background first and then fill everything in. You want to make sure you leave space for your shadow. That's the shadow of the glass. Now, if you've painted over your top line where the gray of the table stops, then you can paint a new one, but you want to make sure that you keep it symmetrical with the other side. Thank you. I'm recording, so roll out. Roll out. Okay. Right, so now we got that part painted. You want to make sure you paint inside between the two glasses. All right. And now we're going to come over here. Okay. So because I added the ashtray and the lighter, I didn't plan when thinking about painting this. I didn't plan colors for it. So I'm going to come up with colors as we go. But I'm feeling Jamaican vibes from this. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes. So this area here, we're going to leave open because that's going to be black. But we're going to paint this area in between the glasses and the arm of the glasses. That's going to be gray because you're going to be able to see the table as it's sitting there. This area here is shadow. So we're going to leave this area blank. I'm going to paint this area here. Not that area up top, Not here, because that's the arm of the glasses. But this little circular, almost circular area there. So you should have a space above and below that is not gray. Okay. All right, let's rinse off your brush. You paint your lighter, whatever color you want to paint it. I'm going to paint mine black. Okay. All right, so okay. So what we're going to do as well is we're going to paint the top of your lighter. Going to mix a little gray and white to do that. And that way your gray from your table is not the same color as the gray from the top of your lighter. Okay. And then we're going to get some red for the thumb part to flick it. Okay. Staying with the black, we're going to do our glasses now. Actually, no, we're not. We're going to do the lenses first. And that way, if we go over the lines, black will cover it. So in the original, I did green and yellow. Feeling a little different today. I'm going to do blue and yellow and then kind of flex it into a green. So I'm going to start with some yellow in one corner. Fill that in. Do the same thing in the other side. Right? And I want to do a light blue over on this side. Okay. I'm going to get the light blue on the other side. Okay. So now we're going to blend the two. And just like we've been blending all in the other areas, I'm just going to take my brush and keep moving that paint along, getting closer and closer to the other side. And as I get to the other side, kind of sweep the colors together. You know, it's looking more blue, like blue's taking over, but I'm going to pull that yellow back out too. Because it's going to fade into a green. Okay. So I rinsed my brush, dried it off a lot. And I'm going to pull that blue and that yellow away from where the yellow was. All right. So the areas where you still see like one color, you can kind of blend everything together. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another little bit of yellow and come right back out of that corner again and pull it around. And then I'm going to take a little bit of that blue and just kind of pat it over here. So once this dries, I'm going to come back in and do the same thing to pull those brighter colors back out and see if we can do it that way. May work, may not work. It's okay if it doesn't. So I'm going to come over here and do the same thing that I had did before on the other side. I'm going to keep pulling that blue closer and closer to that yellow until they meet. Now this has started to dry, so it's going to give a little bit of a different effect than the other side. But we'll get both of them to match up as close as possible. So I'm just going to take my brush and gently work those areas that are a little bit more wet into the areas that aren't. So because it's dry, it's doing what I wanted it to do on the other side, on this side a little bit more. I didn't want to fully blend all the colors, both the colors together, but I wanted to leave a little bit of that fade. So as you can see on this one, it's definitely fading into the other color a little bit better because it's drier. So once this dries, we'll seed and blend it a little bit too. I got a little bit heavier blue here, so I'm going to thin this area out just a little bit. Okay. So now I'm going to take care of these shadows over here. So what I want to do is make the outside of the shadow dark and then blend it in, because as the light shines on these glasses, they're not going to be completely have a complete shadow. They're going to have a transparency to that area because the light shines through the glass and through the tea. So with the thinner edge of your brush, if you have a thin one, you're going to make a little line, a shadow line with your black. Okay. You can also go ahead and make a shadow for your lighter as well. Okay. Now the inside of the glass shadow, like I said, we're going to make that a little lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush and dip it. I'm going to dry it just a little bit and I'm going to get some black on it. And the reason I want it a little wet is because I don't want this black to be thick. Okay? You're going to make sure you pay attention to your glass line for your glass so you don't take the shadow into that glass line. So we're just going to brush this wet, really wet black paint around. And you don't want to leave any of it sitting for too long because then it dries and it'll look uneven. It's going to have a little bit of an unevenness to it anyway, but that's okay. Just make sure more of the heaviness of the black is toward the end of the glass and then toward the sides, because those would be the thicker areas of the glass. And then you want to also make a darker area for your straws, because you'll be able to see those shadows as well. With your paint being this wet, you should be able to kind of drag it across as you're brushing. And the more you stay on one area, the darker it'll get. So that's something to keep in mind as you're painting. A little too wet. So I'll show you what I mean. All right, got this good wet mixture. And I'm going to push it down and paint around the areas that I want to have a shadow. I'm going to fill in all these areas of white. Okay, so I want to keep the lighter color toward the top, toward this part. So I'm going to keep brushing and thinning it out. But I want to pull this paint over to the sides to keep it thicker or darker, I should say. So if you just keep painting on that same area, you end up making it darker and darker. And we make sure that we take into account the straw. Okay. And I'm going to define the bottom of the cup a little bit more too. All right. So we have the shadows done. Make that a little bit brighter. Like it's so light. So as it dries out, the color, the pigment from the paint starts to really come through, allowing you to make it darker. Right. Now we're going to do the yellow in the glasses because that area has dried. So because the green is there, this yellow is not going to be as bright as that yellow. So in order to change that, you take a little bit of white on there. And then we cover this area here. And pull it out to where we want to see the yellow. And then we get some yellow. And put the yellow on top. And dampen your brush a little bit. Get all this blended in together. Get that white on here. And then get a little bit of yellow. And with our brush, dry it off, and then blend it. Smooth it out a little bit. Not perfectly the same, but close enough. Okay. So now we're going to take our black and we're going to paint around these glasses. Remember, this black is, as I said before, this paint is very liquidy. So you want to be careful because you're going to do just what I just did and paint all over your lens to fix that. All right, so again, I said if you make a mistake, that's fine. But if you make a mistake that you feel is really big, you need to erase it. You have to wet your brush and come back through and take your damp brush and go back over. Now, the problem you're going to run into is that if you just painted the area and you're trying to do this, you're going to muddy it up. And you're really going to be frustrated. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to muddy this up and I'm going to remove it for the moment. And try to see if I can fix it. Yeah, making a mess. All right. Sometimes when I make mistakes, I end up liking the way that I fixed the mistake versus the way that I had it before. That happens too. So for now, I'm going to leave this lens so that I can come back over it with some white and blend it a little bit better so that I can fix that mistake there. Okay, back to the black. Try it again. Slowly paint your black. If you're using black, you might want different color glasses. That's okay. So like I said earlier, you don't have to worry about going outside the lines when we're painting, because we're going to paint over these areas where we went outside the lines. So as you can see, where I'm painting at, I'm painting over the lines that I had went into.
Mommy,
Yes, child.
can I look?
Go for it. Okay. All right. So,
No sunshine here.
gonna pull all this black. I'm gonna turn this so I can not get black all over the place again. Mhm. Okay. Um, okay. So now, because my line is missing, I have to paint a new line. Follow an imaginary line. If you've painted over your line and you aren't sure where it is, um, take your time and go where you know you are and paint that, and then just get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and then stop once you kind of fill in where you had already knew you had a line. I hope that helps. Sometimes you need to see it in order to do it, and I get that. Just do the best that you can. Right, so we're going to paint the bridge of the nose. Okay. Right. Right. Now to fix this area that I messed up. I may have to leave it pretty much how it is. I'm gonna try to clear up this smudgy blackish grayish area from when I was trying to clean things up. But for the most part, as I'm looking at it, I'm not unhappy with it. So I try to ask myself, is this something that I'm unhappy with? Must I really fix it? It doesn't take away from the picture. And the reason I ask myself this is because sometimes we can try to fix something and make it worse. When if we had just left it alone, it would have been fine. So I don't want that to turn into that type of situation. Now what I do know is that my lenses are completely off now. I can try to fix it. I don't know if that's going to work. It's a little bit better. I do want to fill in this area here to brighten up this yellow. Get out of there, black. Okay. Can do a little bit of yellow here. Okay. And then do a little blue up here. Okay. All right, so we'll leave that. The arm, paint the arm. I saw blue first, so I'll paint the arm blue. All right, I'm going to do the middle one, right here where the nose is. Because when your glasses are folded, you can see the arm. Be careful if that black is starting to leak in there. To me, that looks a little strange because I don't see the other arm that I know is there. When I see stuff like that, I have to fix it. So I know that other arm is there, or it should be there. Okay. And this little area up here should be gray, and I'll go back in and fill that in. So after we fill in this little area that I missed, I'm going to go ahead and start the ashtray. I think I want to paint the ashtray. I don't have a lot of red in this, so I want to definitely get some red in there. Well, it will be red in the fire, but the actual ashtray itself, I think, should be green. No, these will be green. That'll be fire. This will be, this will be black. Let's do black on the outside. I'm lying to y'all. You know what? Let's see the color we haven't even opened yet. Let's go orange. No, I'm not going to do orange. You guys don't have room for orange. I don't know what color I'm going to do. But I am going to paint the letters red. That much I did decide on. And this word says relax. Even though some of your canvases may not be able to say the whole thing. But that's what it says, because that's what you do when you go sit by the beach, drink a spiked tea, and light up a L. So, I don't know what color you guys want to do your ashtray, but I think I'm going to paint these letters and the little pictures first. And go from there because I'm indecisive that way when it's on a one. I really hope you guys are enjoying this and enjoying your pictures. It's kind of strange to just talk to nothing as I paint. Usually I have music on. I don't know, certain music I can't have on because I don't own the rights to they shit. But I'll work through all that as I do more of these. I'm not a very hype person, so I don't have that aspect of excitement, and I'm just a very chill person. And in fact, the fact that it says relax kind of tells you a lot about me. That's what I like to do. I like to relax. All right. I think I am going to do the outside of this black. You guys have to excuse the noise in the background. My kids are now up. Try to do these while they're asleep so that I don't get a lot of background noise. So I apologize in advance if I gotta yell at somebody or stop to talk to somebody. Because you know, kids don't know how to take no for an answer or wait or hey, I'm doing something. Let me get back to you in a little bit. It's like the end of the world. Like, what's up, man? Nothing going on with you. I can't find something. Oh, go find it. Go look. I did it. You walk out there and you look, and it's right there. Yeah, I know y'all both would too. Like right now, excuse me. Sir, I'm in the middle of a video, and you are not going to come out here and do that. Okay? You take care of yourself like you're supposed to. Did you take care of the other things? Then you got a lot that you can do that doesn't require you to be sitting right here. Okay? Thank you. All right. So this part of the ashtray is done. All right. So next we're going to do the inside. I'm going to do the inside next so that this black can start to dry out, and then I can go back in and do the colors that I want to do there. But the inside of this, just for time's sake, I'll go with green. So usually you do your background first, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do, so I have to be very gentle and easy about painting around these letters. And again, like I said earlier, you don't have to make yours exactly like mine. We all have different variations and different ways that we like to see things. We all like different colors. You might like my color palette. Fine. You might not like my color palette. That's fine too. I actually encourage creativity. And the reason for that is because this is your creation. You're taking suggestions from me, but it's going to hang on your wall if you like it. You pay your money to do this. So if you want to see something in a different color, go for it. If you don't want something, don't add it. Main thing that you want to do is to have fun, create, feel free while you're doing it. That's the biggest part for me, is the freedom of it. I love to paint because I can create something that is either the same as, well, no, let's change that. I love to paint because I like to relax and do it. I like to create things that formulate in my mind, but sometimes there are things that I'll get inspiration from and kind of copy the concept and put my own twist on it. Like this picture, for instance. I looked online. There were two glasses, lemonade, the sun, the palm trees. I kept that pretty much the same. kept this water line pretty much the same, but in the fact that it's iced tea with lemon, but I changed everything else and added everything else that I wanted to it. So if I do it for creative purposes, why can't you? Bottom line is, have fun with it. Right? Keeping with the bright colors. And I'm smudging paint again. Okay. So I have smudged my paint again. I'm going to wet my brush, dry it off, and wipe out the area where I smudged it. But again, because this paint is wet, it's going to smudge. Good thing is that it's green, and the yellow is going to blend with the green a little bit, I think. Yeah, it's going to blend with the green, so it won't be as bad. And in the areas that are white, I'll go back and fill those in a little bit. But first, let's get the smudge yellow out of here. All right, so we need a little bit more red in these areas over the line. Okay, get those filled in. I need a little green. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to take the black and fill in this little area there, and then we're going to work on the fire, and then we're going to work on the leaf. Yes, child. You're welcome. All right, so we're going to do fire next. So fire is going to be red and yellow. And you're going to start your red on the bottom. Okay. You can do your red over here too, because this is another fire right there. Just fill that in. You can fill it in more or less. It doesn't matter. Fire is one of those things where you don't have to be perfect with it because It's ever changing. So then you take your yellow and you go into the red and you keep moving and blending that red and that yellow, and it's going to give you orange. And you pull that orange and yellow up to the top. And there is your fire. Okay. Gonna do the same thing for the other red. Pantry. Okay. And then we're gonna take more yellow. We're gonna start with the yellow into the red. And I'm gonna keep pulling it up and pulling it up to the top. I like to go back down and pull some more red up and get a little bit more yellow and stick it right on the top here. Okay. So now we're gonna do the shadow for the glasses. We'll wait on the leaf. Let that fire dry out some more. And we're almost done. Let's get that shadow going. Okay. So I was hesitant to do the black on the outside for the ashtray because it's going to be right in the shadow of the glasses, but it's fine. I don't think it's going to look off. You can tell the difference between the two. My child is singing because this is what he does all day long. It does not matter to him that his mother is recording. So that's a bonus that y'all get. Y'all get the sweet singing of Christian in the background. All right. Okay, so now we have that. Let's flip this and take care of the sun. Okay. Okay. So we're going to take your white and you're going to start right in the center of here. And you're going to start filling this area in. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to go to where this your points come out. And you're going to go a little bit ways out and then pull that point all the way back in. And you're going to do that on each point. Okay, so after you get each point like that, then you're going to take each point and connect them. Okay. And you're connecting them at the base where we went and filled all of that in. So you want your paint to connect all of your points. My sunshine is getting a little out of hand. So got it a little extended. I want to take my next one and make it a little bit bigger as I'm connecting. But you want to paint all of this in and make it one. Try to get all like almost solid, but if it's not solid, that's fine. Okay. Got a little messy, but that's okay. Not as neat as I would have wanted it to be, but I am going to be fine with it. And I even want to extend my point down a little bit. I'm going to wet my brush a little bit. And drag a little bit of it down. So after this part, we're going to do work on these trees a little bit more. Take another run over the trees, and then we're going to go down and put the outline on the glasses. Oh, wait a minute, I don't need white, I need green. But you're almost finished. I bet they're wonderful. So what we have to do is this. Once you finish, post it on Instagram and tag that Joan Art. That Joan Art. THATJAWNART. And I will go back over and look at your pictures because I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. So I'm just taking simple brush strokes and going over the area that I had painted to begin with. And I'm painting them back up toward the middle, toward the vine or the spine, whatever you want to call it, that middle line. And filling these in. Okay? And it takes some of that white out of it. It takes a lot of the blue out of it. It covers the blue up because we don't want to really see too much of the blue from the sky in the plant. Okay? So you don't want to do a lot of this, right? Sorry guys, couldn't see me. So you're just taking simple brush strokes. And the same grain that you were painting before. So you created the stroke for it. So you just want to go back over those strokes to fill in those colors. Fill in that green so that you're not seeing a lot of blue. And fill in the green so you're not seeing a lot of white. But what I want to do as well is I'm going to go back over, I'm going to take some, take a little bit of a darker green and just put some dark lines in it to show the breakup of the leaves a little bit. So dark green is going to be a little bit of black and a green. And you don't want it too dark so that it's really heavy and distracting and it sticks out. But you want it just dark enough so that it gives the green a different color. I mean, a darkness to it so that you can put a little bit of depth into the plant. Okay? So let's take a little bit of green. Dry your brush so that you can actually pick up the color. Get a little bit of green. And then drop, and I would do just one little dab of black. Maybe get a little bit more green. There was a lot of black. So if you're doing this and you're gonna darken your colors, be careful with your whites and your blacks when you're mixing them. You wanna less is more. Let's just say that. So always start off with a little bit and then gradually add to it, because blacks and whites have a way of muddying what you're doing. Okay, so this is the darker green. And I'm just going to add some random lines on here to give a little bit of color change and variation. You can even go back over your center line if you want. If not, you can leave that center line a lighter green. That's fine. You can leave it how you have it. Whatever it is that you want to do. Okay, so that is done with that part. Let's turn around so you guys can see it all the way. Okay. I'm not too fond of that sun, but it'll do. All right, so now we're going to take our white. What I want to do with the white, I want to mix white with a little bit of water, because I want to thin it out some. I don't want this to be a thick line of white. I want it to be almost like a light white wash over this area. So your brush shouldn't be heavily saturated with paint or with water. A little bit more white. And you just want to paint this water almost wet line. And try not to get too thick like I just did. I don't like it that thick. Okay. Alright, so take this line all the way down. It helps to cover up any of those mess ups that went into this line, but it also helps to kind of give a little bit of gives a break in color so that you can see where your glass starts and where it ends. It's a little different than the original that I did. I didn't add this part on the original. I wanted to try something a little different to see how the glass will look. Alright, so here's that part that I was talking about underneath the straw. So just filling that white line in should show a little break between the straw and the glass. And it should also give enough so that you can see where the sand still is right behind it. So I'm going to go back in and touch that up a little bit. And then after we finish this line, I'm going to go back over to the ashtray and paint the leaf. And then we should be just about finished. In any areas you want to touch up on your own, go right ahead. I personally wouldn't try to go back and fix too many mistakes. And I know for me, I have a tendency that if I go back to try to fix something, I end up making more of a mess and having to do a bigger job. So I just tend to leave things if there's small mistakes. Larger things that, look awkward, you definitely want to fix those up. All right, so we're going to get our dark green again. So if you have any dark green left, we'll use that. But if not, grab some of that black and that green and make you a dark green. So let's see if I can get this because I'm never really good at this part. I always end up messing it up. Yeah, I don't like those, but we're going to roll with it anyway. So if you do your dark green as the spine, you can do your light green to fill in. I would kind of dab the paint off onto the the palette and then come back in and fill it in with the lighter. Yeah, this is not my favorite one, but we're gonna make it work. Okay, so we're coming up on, we got 3 more minutes before we're finished. So I'm going to finish this out, fix these leaves up. I'll post a picture. I'll take a final picture, and then you guys will be able to compare it if you want, see what you see. But I do want to thank you. My name is Barbara. Call me Nikki, Barbara Nikki, doesn't matter. I am that Joan. I am that Joan of art. You can follow me on Art by B Evans on Instagram. Like and share, subscribe, please. And I will see you guys on Instagram when you show me your pictures. Okay? Hashtag that Joan art. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this session. If you would like other sessions, other paintings, I do a art giveaway every month, the second Monday of every month. And it is a guessing game. All you have to do is take a guess of how many, whatever we're doing that day. We might do pennies, we might do candy. It all depends on what my little guy wants to count up and have you guys guess. That's his game that he runs. So yeah, we are just about finished. The last thing that you do is you sign your artwork. I try not to sign it until I'm absolutely finished because I know I'm not going back and making any more changes. Once I put these on, these little black areas in here, I am 100% finished and I will sign it and probably give this one away. I don't know yet. Yeah. All right, so we're all finished with this one. Yeah, let's see. That was the original that we started with. And this is this one that we finished with today. All right. Well, thank you guys. Enjoy your day. Be safe.